Hey everyone, it's Keeley here for Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for today's soap making video where we're going to go and make one of the Patreon design challenges. For this month, I asked my patrons to name up to 3 colours that they'd like to see me use in a soap, with the caveat that I could maybe add in a couple of other colours, particularly black or white, to really enhance a design idea that I may come up with. Now, I put everybody's suggestions into a soapy jug, and the one that came out was from Lee, who runs Bath Body Bliss, and I've left links to her business down below so you can go and check her out. Lee wanted me to use Tuscan Sun Fandango. Let me double check. Yes, Fandango, which is a neon pink, and Amethyst, which is a purple, and it's actually a color I did not have in my color range. So I did have to go and get that one come in from off of Heirloom. It is one of the My Micro Obsession colors. So I've got all of those colors together. It did take me a little while to kind of come up with an idea. I had a few different ideas, all posed various challenges to make. And then I remembered that I actually do have some of my little labels for some soap boxes called Spring Bloom. So I decided that was what I was going to go and make. So I started off by making some soap dough using those 3 colors. And the first thing we're going to go and do is make the little flowers using the soap dough and some fondant molds to go on top of our Spring Bloom soap. Let's go. All right, so to create our little blooms, I have got some fondant molds here. Now these two do actually look the same. They are actually the same flowers, but this pink one actually has them just a little bit smaller, which is quite handy. So then you get different shaped flowers, so it looks a little bit more natural. So we've got those, and then I've got my soap dough, and I made these up in the specific colors. So I've got some Tuscan Sun, we've got the Amethyst purple, and then both of these are Fandango pink. I know they don't look different or too different on camera, but this one is slightly lighter than this one here. So I'm going to create a couple of different flowers using these colors. So let's grab my favorite. I'm also going to cheat a little bit. There will be 2 extra colors added into this soap. One of them is going to be green because we'll need to pipe some green leaves at the end, and the other I'm going to use a little bit of brown because of course I cannot resist making the sunflowers, and you need a little brown center for the sunflowers. So all I've done is I've just broken off a small piece of my soap dough. It probably is too big for the little area. Just going to roll it into a ball. I find this gets a really nice smooth surface going, and in the middle of my little sunflower here where the center would be, I'm just going to pop that ball in there, just making sure that it's not too big, doesn't overlap the space. And then we're going to grab our yellow. I should have unwrapped all of these prior to starting, but I don't want them to dry out. So let's grab our yellow soap dough, give that a little bit of a squish, a little bit of a condition there. And this piece doesn't matter if it is much bigger than the mold. In fact, I like to have it bigger than my mold there. And all I'm going to do is squish it on the top, making sure to push on that centerpiece to make sure that my yellow and brown adhere together. And then I'm going to grab my trusty little scraper tool, take the excess off, and then just gently peel back my mold here until my little sunflower pops out like so. Now I forgot to go and get myself a tray to pop these onto. All right, so I've got my little tray to start popping the flowers onto. Now sometimes you will find that after you make a few little flowers out of your fondant molds, they do get a little bit sticky, and then things don't tend to unmold as easily. So in here I've just got a little tub with some cornstarch, and every once in a while I'll pick some up on my brush and just brush it on in the inside of the mold, and that just stops everything from sticking. Give it a bit of a tap down to get rid of any excess so it doesn't interfere with our soap dough too much. And then we're going to make another one. So again, just a little piece of brown in there, rolled into a ball. And I'm going to do the same with the yellow and squish that on the top and trim off the excess. and then just very gently pull it back. I try not to distort the mold too much while I'm doing this. We don't distort the flower, and just let it come out by itself. So we've got our little sunflowers. I'll have to make a few more of those. I'm going to grab maybe we'll go for the lighter of the pinks here. Let's get this one open. We'll pick one of the other flowers in this mold. So I'm basically just going to make lots of different shaped flowers to go on the top of the soap. So we might again take a little ball of it, get it nice and smooth. I think that is way too big, so let's cut that in half. That's better. I'm going to pop it into that flower there, and we're going to grab some of our purple. All right, got some purple. Roll it up into a ball into our mold and trim off that excess, and then again just peel it back out, and we'll have, oh, this one's going to be really super cute. Got a nice, oh, little purple one like so. So we'll pop that onto our tray. So I'll do a few of the same of each of the designs. So again, we're going to have that bit of pink. Again, I've got it way too big for that little hole in there. If you get it too big and it pokes over the edges, you end up with your colours bleeding into each other, which sometimes doesn't look too bad depending upon the flower that you are trying to put together, because, you know, in nature the colours do all bleed into each other. But just in this case, I don't want it to do that. So again, we're going to peel that back gently from off the edges. Come out. This one did need just maybe a little bit of cornstarch in there for the second sort of round. So we'll have the pink and the purple. We're going to have, maybe we'll do it the opposite way round, but use the brighter colour here. I'm just having a look at what we've got in our flowers. I think we might do, ooh, too many flower choices here. We'll stick to this mold because I know this mold works really, really well for me. We might do this flower in here. So again, I'm just pushing my purple into the middle. We'll see what this one looks like with the bright pink, and if I think it just looks a little bit too funny, we might do just a little bit of colour blending as well, because you can always do that with your soap dough. Let's pop that one in there, and we'll take the excess off, and out we come. Oh no, that one looks really nice. It's very bright, but very, very nice colours. But you can, as I said, always blend your soap dough colours together. So if we do actually want to create another completely different look for our flowers, if we grab some of our pink and our purple there and we start blending that together, we're going to get a really nice colour on here, much brighter pinky purple coming through. And it doesn't have to be completely smooth in colour. As I said, our flowers can have changing colours all the time. Let's grab a little bit of our yellow, and I'm going to pop it into, or if we can do it, I really like this one, but it's a much smaller flower. Let's, in fact, that's still way too big. This one's going to be a challenge, I think, but let's, all right, got it in there. Let's get our new colour here, and we're going to squish that on the top, scrape off the excess. In fact, that is not full. This flower might not work. Not all of your fondant moulds do make good moulds for soap dough. Sometimes they just don't want to come back out. But no, we might have a bit of success. Oh, look at that. That one is really, really pretty there. So I'm going to get on with making all of these little flowers up, ready to go onto the soap. And once I've got them done, we will get on with making our soap. as you can see, I now have all of my flowers done. I have got my oils and my lye water, and I've got all my colors split out and everything ready to go. Let's turn our stick blender on. I'm going to start by pouring in my lye water into my oils, and we will mix that up before splitting it out for a few colors. All right, we've got that mixed up there, and in comes my little pots of color. And as I said, I am also adding a green into this because we're going to be piping some leaves. I'm going to be doing Hello Spring. I just thought that was appropriate. And as usual, I have poured off way too much because I was talking. So let's see if we can get that back in there. There's just way too much green. Oh, well. Story of my soaping life. And then we have the three colors that were picked out. We've got Fandango, we've got this amethyst purple, and we've got the Tuscan sun in yellow. So we've got those poured out. Trying not to pour too much because I've got so many colors. If I have too many colors and pour too much off and do my swirl, it looks muddy. I'm just going to shake my titanium dioxide very, very gently. I came in this week after having my days off. I'd made some soap the days before going for my days off, and I must have shaken my titanium dioxide a bit too hard, and I came in and found titanium dioxide spots all over the floor in the shop, and I had to get that cleaned up. I think we're out of titanium dioxide, so hopefully we've got enough. Alright, so most of my colours I just give a really nice little light mix, but my green that I'm going to be piping with, I have brought that up to a medium to thick trace, so it can just sit here and continue thickening up, ready for me to do some piping. Let's see what this fragrance is going to do. Hopefully it's going to behave. This is one of the ones I've had in for my monthly melt edits, and it's going to sound really weird for my choice as a spring bloom soap. It's actually called Snowy Forest, and there is two methods in my madness of picking something that sounds more wintry than it does springtime. Number one, I'm trying to use up all fabrics. All of the, I'm sure we've got people out there as well who need to use up their fabrics, but I need to use up the fragrances sitting on my shelf, and every month I do this monthly melt edit, and I end up with more fragrances on my shelf. So I didn't want to go and buy any more fragrances for this particular soap. So that's one reason. And there were plenty of other fragrances I could have chosen, but I went for this one because of what spring is to me. So spring, as I've said many times in the past, is my favorite season of the year. There is so much new life around. You've got all the beautiful flowers coming out, you've got all the baby animals, all that sort of thing, and I absolutely love it. But having grown up in the UK when I was a child, spring was very different for me over there. Spring, we used to come out of winter where we'd had snow and all that sort of stuff, and then you used to see the snowdrops and the crocuses and the bluebells and all of that starting to peek through the snow. I'm just going to grab my mold. So to me, it was always so beautiful to see all these flowers just coming up and through what is, you know, pretty harsh environment, all that snow for it to try and push up and through. But it was always just so magical to me to see the spring flowers popping up through the snow. And my favorites, and always will be my favorites, are the snowdrops. Absolutely love snowdrops. So yeah, that's why I kind of went for this snowy forest, because we actually used to live on the edges of a couple of forests. When I was growing up, one of the houses we were in was right on the edge of the forest. We literally walked out the door and into the forest. And I remember seeing all these flowers popping up. But this particular fragrance, it does have a little bit of an Aussie note into it as well. It's got pine, eucalyptus, there's a bit of patchouli in there just to ground it a little bit, as well as some cedar and some oak moss. So yeah, it's not a traditional floral spring scent, but it definitely reminds me of what spring meant to me, seeing all of those flowers just after a cold winter. I was actually walking Pepper the other day, thinking about our flowers here in Australia. You often hear Australians say we don't do spring or autumn. We literally have winter or summer. And it's very true. We don't really experience the seasons as much as other countries. We don't get those beautiful red leaves as much in all areas of Australia. But as I was walking Pepper the other day, I thought we are actually pretty lucky, because I remember as a kid growing up that, you know, come autumn, and autumn was beautiful because you had all of those gorgeous golden yellow colours and amber and red and all of that. But then you got to winter and it was pretty bleak and there was just no life. It really did look like there was no life. Whereas here in Australia, there is always something in bloom. Any time of year, there is always something in bloom. And even in winter, we've got some beautiful, beautiful flowers out at the moment that are bright colours and so cheery. And we're pretty lucky like that. So don't mind if we don't get the seasons, because we do get gorgeous flowers all year round. But while I've been busy yakking away, mind you, I think they call it yapping these days, don't they, rather than yakking, I have just poured all of my colours in there, looking really nice. I decided to pop this onto a white base, just to allow the flowers to really pop and to get those colours popping as well. I don't think, because it's a little bit thicker than I hoped it would be, I don't think we're going to have too many swirly swirls. So what I might do is finish getting this last little bit out the bottom of my bucket here. Still a fair bit of soap in here, but so I don't miss it, I'm going to jiggle our soap to get it nice and flat. It's a bit bowed in there. And then we're going to grab the stainless steel chopstick and let's give that a swirl, making sure to get those end pieces as well. There we go. Let's give that another jiggle. All right, I'm going to get the last of these dregs out of the pot. I know there's not a lot in there, but it's all money at the end of the day that's in this pot, and it can be soap to go on someone. So I'm going to get this one scraped out, and then I'll get myself tidied up a little bit, and we'll come and pop our flowers on the top here. All right, so I was just having a little bit of a debate with myself whether to start popping the leaves on now or wait until afterwards and fill it in after. But I think what we're going to do is pop some leaves on, and then I can come in and kind of pop flowers on top, because all of my flowers are actually quite flat. Normally I would put my flowers and then pipe the leaves underneath, but I just think because my flowers are quite flat, it's not going to work as well. So I'm going to go down the soap and just randomly pipe some leaves that we can then sit flowers on top of. And that's not very random now, is it? We're getting into straight lines and stuff. And I also need to do a few that are in sort of different directions as well. But I'm kind of figuring we'll go through, we'll pop these on, fill in the flowers, and then I can come back through and pop more flowers on afterwards. Now I know this green looks absolutely disgusting, but this Hello Spring always pops back up into this beautiful green color. So I'm going to keep going with this. I have about 5 minutes until I need to go and open my shop door. So I'm going to get on with doing this bit and pop a bit of music on here so I can get my door open in time. All right, so there it is. Spring Bloom is now in the mold. I know it's not looking very pretty right now, but we just have to trust the process that this is going to brighten up to a beautiful bright green once it's all fully saponified. Absolutely loving the top. I have just put a little bit of biodegradable glitter on the top because, hey, why not? But I'm going to leave this one set overnight and then we'll come back in a moment and we'll cut it open and see what swirls we've got on the inside. All right, it's the next day and look, that green has popped beautifully. I knew that it would. A little bit concerned about the white coloring. It's a little bit pinkish. I won't be too upset if it does stay that pink, but hopefully it won't go brown. It was only meant to have 0.1% vanillin in it, according to the website. But there could be ET vanillin, and some of these businesses just do not tell you what the ET vanillin is. Oh, it does look like I've got a nice selection of flowers on each of these, and thunk goes Ida. So let's take a look. I was getting a little bit worried while I was placing the flowers because I'm wondering if I'm getting enough flowers on each bar, but I think I have. Some have got more than others. Oh, this is very sticky. Oh, look at that. Beautiful colours. We've got a bit of a sunflower, a bit of the purple and other little petals on there, but I love the swirl in there. Let's grab our next one. Oh, very, very sticky. All right, there's another one. I have had to actually increase my water a little bit. I was starting to get really fast moving soaps and I've discovered I just need to increase my water a little bit, which does mean they're a little bit stickier, but I am loving how this has come up, and it's got such a beautiful scent to it as well. It's got a really fresh, that's got a lot more of the pink and purple flowers. Of course, the ones that have got the sunflowers are going to be my absolute favourite, but loving how the swirls have come up and such a gorgeous selection of colours in there as well. So really, really pleased with how Spring Bloom has come up, and a nice selection of colours suggested by Lee there. That's got a bit of all the flowers on the top of that one. So let's grab a couple more here. And we've got those beautiful swirls going the whole way through. So this is going to head off onto the cure rack for the next 4 weeks. I will then take photos of this soap at the end of its cure once I've seen what the colours are going to do, and then I will be posting those onto social media as well as onto the website. So if you do want to see what the final colours are going to look like, make sure you're following over there. The photo at the start of this video, I am running a little bit late with doing this soap, because I've had so much trouble with my soaping, I've had to wait until I've sorted out a few little problems. So I'm running late with this one. So the photo on the front cover of this one is probably only a few days after this has been cut and tidied up. So just keep that in mind if you are interested in the colour. But I'm super happy with it. I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me as I made Spring Bloom, which will be available in September, just as spring starts here in Australia. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments below. And until the next time, I hope you have a good one and I will see you then. Bye. Love that swirl.